Your son, the one you trusted, the one you prayed over, the one you carried in your heart, even when the world misunderstood him. He has reached a moment where what he hid can no longer stay in the shadows. The truth has risen to the surface like fire bursting through a closed door. The actions he thought were unseen have now reached the eyes of those who cannot be deceived anymore. And even the police, those trained to remain detached, logical, unmoved, are shocked by what they have uncovered. But listen carefully. God is not bringing this message to destroy you. Heaven is not revealing this moment to break your spirit. What is happening now is part of your divine protection. God says, I saw what you did not see. I heard what you did not hear. I witnessed what was done behind your back long before any human authority discovered it. The truth may feel heavy, but it carries your freedom inside it. It carries your healing. It carries your release. For years, heaven watched you love with a pure heart, while deception rooted itself in secret places. Heaven saw the confusion that entered your home, the sudden distance, the tension in the air, the unexplained shifts that made no sense at the time. You felt that something was wrong, but you couldn't prove it. You sensed a darkness moving behind you, but you had no evidence. You cried silent tears, wondering if you were imagining things, wondering if your instincts were wrong. But God says, you were not wrong. Your spirit was alert because I was whispering to you. You didn't know what your son was doing, but heaven did. And now everything hidden is being exposed, not to shame you, but to save you, not to destroy your family, but to purify it, not to punish you, but to untangle you from the chains that wrapped around your peace. God says, your son's actions have reached the point of divine intervention. What he did behind your back is now being brought into the light, not by accusation, not by rumor, not by suspicion, but by factual discovery, by undeniable truth. The police, shaken by what they have seen, are standing in disbelief. They never expected the depths of what they found. They never imagined that behind a quiet mask, behind a familiar face, behind the image of someone who belonged to you, such actions could exist. But God says, do not fear this exposure. Heaven warned him. Heaven tried to soften his heart. Heaven nudged him again and again to walk away from deception. But he ignored the voice of wisdom. He ignored the voice of conscience. He ignored the very love that prayed for him. And now, heaven has stepped in. Your heart may feel like it is breaking, but God says, your destiny is not breaking. Your calling is not breaking. Your purpose is not breaking. This revelation does not end your story. It begins a new chapter of clarity and truth. You are being freed from the weight of lies you were unknowingly carrying. You are being released from the spiritual heaviness that surrounded you without explanation. Heaven is lifting the veil. You may feel shocked. You may feel hurt. You may feel betrayed. But God says, what is happening now is my protection over your life. I did not allow the truth to reach you until your spirit was strong enough to handle it. And now you are ready. This is the moment heaven has been preparing you for. That heaviness you felt in recent days, that stirring in your chest, that restlessness you couldn't explain, that was the spiritual world moving. That was the truth rising. That was the angels clearing the air around you. Archangel Michael himself has been standing guard, ensuring that no further harm comes near you. He has been fighting battles you had no idea existed. He has been pushing away the darkness your son invited unknowingly into your environment. And now, the battle is reaching its conclusion. God says, do not panic. Do not be afraid. What the police have found is shocking, but it is also the key to your freedom. You will not be blamed. You will not be shamed. You will not be destroyed. Heaven is defending you. Heaven is clearing your name. Heaven is lifting your reputation into the light. This exposure is painful, but it is also holy. It is cleansing your home, breaking generational cycles, removing hidden darkness, and restoring the peace that has been missing. You have cried enough. You have suffered enough. You have questioned yourself enough. The veil is tearing, and the truth is stepping forward. God says, my child, breathe. You are safe now. Listen, my child. Now that the truth has begun to surface, heaven is asking you to remain calm. What is unfolding around you is not chaos. It is divine order being restored. God says, you have stepped into a sacred moment where truth is no longer hiding and lies can no longer breathe. Everything that was concealed behind your back, everything that was whispered in secret, everything that was shielded from your eyes is now being pulled forward, not by man, but by the authority of heaven. Your son's actions, though heartbreaking, are part of a spiritual cleansing that has been long overdue. God says you were walking in a house where shadows moved quietly. You felt the heaviness, the shifts, the tension, but you couldn't understand where it came from. That heaviness was the spiritual weight of what he was hiding. His choices created a fog, a confusion, a spiritual barrier that drained your peace without explanation. But heaven never lets darkness reign forever. God says, I allowed this moment so that you would finally be set free. You have lived with questions, with doubts, with feelings you could never fully explain. You wondered why your heart felt troubled at night, why your spirit felt unsettled, why your dreams were disturbed. It was not anxiety, it was discernment. Your soul was ahead of your understanding, sensing what your eyes had not yet seen. Heaven was preparing you. Now, as the truth emerges, the same police who once saw your son as ordinary now stand stunned by what has been uncovered. Their reactions are not small. Their shock is not mild. They have encountered something that goes deeper than they expected, something that forces them to reassess every assumption. But God says, do not let their reactions frighten you. Their shock is confirmation that heaven has revealed what needed to be exposed. While they piece together facts, heaven has already completed its investigation. Archangel Michael declares, the spiritual case is closed. The truth has been written in the courts of heaven long before it reached the desks of men. What is happening now in the physical realm is simply the manifestation of what was already decided in the spiritual realm. You may feel torn between grief and relief, grief for what was hidden, relief for what is now being revealed. That emotional conflict is normal, but God says, do not let sorrow drown you. You are stepping into one of the most powerful seasons of transformation in your life. You are not just witnessing a moment, you are witnessing a shift. For years you carried burdens that were never yours. You worried about things you couldn't name. You blamed yourself for signs you couldn't decipher. You thought you were failing when in reality you were being spiritually attacked through someone close to you. But God says you were not failing. You were surviving. Heaven recorded every tear you cried, every night you stayed awake, every battle you faced alone. And now those tears, those moments of quiet pain, those hidden struggles, they are becoming the foundation of your restoration. Your son's exposure may feel like the end of something, but heaven sees it as the beginning of your freedom. God says, do not carry guilt for his choices. You are not responsible for the paths others take behind your back. You loved, you prayed, you tried, and those efforts have reached heaven. Your prayers did not go unnoticed. Even when you felt unheard, heaven was collecting every word. Now, the truth is revealing not only what he did, but how strong you have been through it all. The police may be shocked by his actions, but heaven is amazed by your endurance. You survived emotional storms that should have broken you. You held your family together with faith when everything around you was falling apart. That strength was not human, it was divine. God says, the truth will sting, but it will not scar you. I am giving you clarity, not condemnation. There will be moments where more information comes forward. You may hear things that surprise you. You may receive messages or reports that confirm what you already sensed. Do not be afraid of these moments. They are signs that heaven's hand is moving, that your freedom is unfolding piece by piece. Archangel Michael says, stay silent in this season. Your silence is not weakness, it is wisdom, it is protection, it is spiritual strategy. You do not need to argue, you do not need to explain, you do not need to defend yourself. Truth is speaking louder than any voice around you. Heaven is handling what you cannot. God says, do not let anger rise. Do not let bitterness take root. I am your judge. I am your defender. I will handle every piece of this situation perfectly. What is being exposed now will become the key that opens new doors in your life. Doors of peace, doors of restoration, doors of blessing. Your son's choices may have shaken your heart, but they will not shake your destiny. His actions may have created turmoil, but they will not steal your purpose. God says, I am taking the very thing that was meant to break you and turning it into the force that will elevate you. The police's shock is evidence that heaven's light is shining into the darkest corners. Everything hidden is now being brought to the surface, and as those truths emerge, so does your freedom. You may not understand everything right now. You may still feel overwhelmed, but God says, you will soon see why this had to happen. You will soon see how this moment is the turning point of your story. You are stepping out of deception. You are stepping out of confusion. You are stepping out of spiritual heaviness. And you are stepping into revelation, healing, and divine vindication. Heaven says, you are safe now. The truth has begun its work. Listen carefully now, because this part of the message reaches into the deepest places of your heart. God says, my child, I know you are trying to remain strong, but inside you feel torn in ways no one else understands. The truth about your son is not easy to accept. The exposure is not simple to process. This is not something you ever expected to face, yet here you are, walking through a moment that feels like both a storm and a silent awakening. But God says, I am walking through this with you. You are not facing this revelation alone. You are not processing this truth by yourself. Heaven has surrounded you with angels, with guidance, with spiritual clarity. What you are feeling is valid, but it is not the end of your story. You are stepping through a painful truth, but you are stepping into healing at the same time. Your son's actions, hidden, covered, pushed far from your sight, have now reached their divine limit. Heaven allowed the exposure because the darkness he carried was beginning to affect you, to drain you, to overshadow your spirit. God says, I could not allow that darkness to continue in your home. I had to break it. What your son hid behind your back was not just a mistake. It was not a minor slip. It was a pattern, a path, a darkness that grew roots in secret. And while he thought no one saw him, while he believed he was safe from consequences, heaven was watching every step. There is nothing hidden before God, and when the time comes for truth to rise, nothing can hold it back. The police discovering what he did is not an accident. Their shock is not coincidence. Their reaction is part of the divine confirmation that heaven's exposure is unfolding exactly as it should. Documents they never expected to find have come to light. Evidence they never imagined would appear is now undeniable. Voices that were silent have begun to speak. Everything that once protected the lie has now turned against it. But God says, do not fear what the police are uncovering. Fear would only cloud the clarity I am giving you. What they are seeing is what I already judged long ago. Heaven moved their hands. Heaven opened the files. Heaven brought the right people to look at the right details at the right time. This is divine timing working through human systems. Your son may feel cornered, exposed, or overwhelmed right now, but that is not your burden to carry. God says, do not take responsibility for what he chose to hide. Do not allow guilt to sit on your shoulders. His actions do not define your value, your worth, or your identity. You have been faithful. You have been loving. You have been patient beyond measure. You tried to guide him. You prayed for him. You hoped the best for him, even when you sensed things were wrong. You did your part. Heaven saw every effort, every prayer, every moment of love poured into him. None of that was wasted. But now, heaven must deal with what he refused to face. Archangel Michael says, do not interfere with what heaven is doing. This is important. Your heart may want to protect him. Your love may want to remove the consequences. But this time, heaven says, stand back. This exposure is not punishment. It is correction. It is necessary. It is how the cycle breaks. There is a spiritual war around your son that you cannot fight for him. He must face what he created. He must see the truth of his actions. He must walk through the consequences that reveal the reality he tried to cover. And you must allow heaven to do the work. Your role now is not to fix him. Your role now is not to chase answers. Your role now is not to absorb his burden. Your role now is to heal. God says, your heart has been wounded. Your peace has been disturbed. Your spirit has been shaken. Now I am restoring you. This exposure was not meant to break your family. It was meant to cleanse it. Darkness cannot live where light enters, and heaven has chosen this moment to release light into every corner that once held secrets. You may notice people around you shifting now. Some who were close will become distant, not because of you, but because the truth scares them. Others will suddenly appear with apologies, with explanations, with uncomfortable honesty. You don't have to respond. You don't have to explain. Your silence will be your shield. Your peace will be your testimony. God says, let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. Let them question. You remain still. Stillness is your protection. Calmness is your strength. Silence is your spiritual power. What was done behind your back was deep. It was layered. It was darker than you thought. Even the police were taken aback. But God has seen darker things and turned them into miracles. God has witnessed deeper betrayals and turned them into breakthroughs. Your son's actions may have disrupted your life, but they cannot disrupt God's plan for you. Heaven says, you will not be destroyed by this exposure. You will be elevated through it. The breakdown is becoming the doorway to your breakthrough. The hurt is becoming the soil for your healing. The betrayal is becoming the reason heaven accelerates your blessing. You will experience shifts in your spirit soon, moments where peace suddenly washes over you, moments where you feel lighter than expected, moments where clarity replaces confusion. These are signs that heaven is rewiring your emotional foundation. You are moving from pain to power, from shock to strength, from heaviness to divine freedom. God says, I am not exposing your son to shame you. I am exposing him to save you, and he is not done yet. More truth will surface, more clarity will come, more confirmation will arrive, but none of it will destroy you. It will rebuild you. It will restore you. It will reposition you for blessings you could not receive while living under hidden shadows. Heaven says you are stepping into the season of divine vindication, and this is only the beginning. Listen closely now, because the final part of this message carries the weight of peace your heart has been searching for. The Lord says, what was meant to break your son will become the reason he rises higher than ever before. You have worried, you have cried in silence, you have questioned why the journey has been so heavy. But heaven has seen every tear, every late-night prayer, every moment you held on to hope, even when the situation made no sense. God wants you to know your son is not walking through this season alone. The pressure around him has been great, but so is the hand of God that surrounds him. Every spiritual storm he faced was not a sign of destruction. It was a sign of transition. It was heaven's way of shifting him, molding him, preparing him for a future far bigger than the battle he is in right now. You may not see it immediately, but something inside him is awakening. Strength he didn't know he had. Faith he didn't know was growing. A new direction, a clearer purpose, a sharper sense of what God truly placed inside him. And the Lord says, I am restoring everything that felt delayed. I am rebuilding everything that looked broken. I am renewing everything that felt drained. Nothing has been lost, nothing has been wasted, nothing has slipped out of heaven's control. There is a new covering over your son, a covering of protection, wisdom, and divine favor. Where he once struggled to find his path, doors will now open without force. Where he once felt outnumbered, he will now feel supported. Where he once felt misunderstood, he will now be seen for the truth of who he is. The peace that was missing, it will return. The clarity that was lacking, it will come. The strength that was fading, it will rise again. And God says, as you trust me, everything connected to your son will align. Do not fear what you cannot see. My hand is already ahead of him, preparing the way. This is your confirmation. A calm is replacing the chaos. A blessing is replacing the burden. A breakthrough is replacing the battle. Stay in faith. Keep praying. Keep believing. Heaven has already released the shift you've been waiting for.